Coming up on this week's Wrestling for the Culture, Cassidy Kieth joins me to discuss his career. I had his brother Jon'Tae on last week. This week, Cassidy comes on, gives us a story about him and Jon'Tae working together, including when they face Meng and The Barbarian, the Faces of Fear. It's time for Wrestling for the Culture, where we take a look inside to see what the wrestlers of color have been doing this week. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, on this edition of Wrestling for the Culture, last week I had his brother, Jon'Tae, and this week I have the one and only Cassidy Kieth. Big
Yes,
Cass,
sir.
what's going on, man?
What's up, bro? How you doing, man?
Oh, man, I'm good, man. You know, I'm opportunity to talk wrestling with another brother, so, you know, I'm happy about that.
Facts. Blessings.
Yeah, so how you doing? You know, right now, unfortunately, we're dealing with COVID-19, but
Man.
for everybody, like all you guys out there who, first and foremost, thank you for going out there and putting your bodies on the line for our entertainment. This is an opportunity for y'all to relax, rejuvenate, and come back better and stronger than ever, mentally and physically. What are some things you're doing to get ready when all is all the smoke is clear? How will you come back better?
Man, like I've been working on just cardio and stuff like that. As being a big dude, just it's hard for a lot of us to go out and work consistently. And I think that I've been doing a pretty decent job of that, but like I could always be better. Um Tay and I have this thing where like every 6 months we evaluate where we are in our career, and we feel like if we're not doing where we should be, then we're gonna change some stuff up. So like I'm not the type of person to be stagnant at all.
That's smart. You don't hear a lot of people talk about that. Even people in the WWE or AEW or Impact. You don't hear a lot of people talk about a 6 month period where it's like, okay, let's look back and see what can we do next. What are some
Mhm.
things that in the past 6 months that you've done to improve on your craft?
So I think that my biggest thing that I've been kind of going through, I would say, is just becoming more of myself. Like I've been doing this, oh Jesus Christ, like 12 years now, but like I still feel like I'm still finding myself. Like when I started, I was doing like this Kamala type of gimmick. I was like 500 pounds, huge, and since then I've had a weight loss surgery. I lost almost 200 pounds, and just so I had to go in. I couldn't do the stuff that I used to do. You know what I'm saying? So I wasn't. I was always one of the bigger guys. Or like back in the day, a couple years ago, I was the biggest dude anywhere I went. Now I'm one of the biggest dudes, but there's many dudes bigger. So like I can't go and be, the monster that I was before. I had to change it up. So now I'm just kind of like sharpening that. Like last year, I feel like was my coming out party because that was my first. Like because I took like three, 3 or 4 months off after my surgery, and like I was just kind of feeling it. And like this past year. Was just really me just kind of testing the waters, doing the little different stuff. And this year I feel like I'm finally coming to that part of finding out who the real Cassidy Kieth is.
Now you talk about, doing the surgery and, changing your style. What are some of the biggest things what are some of the biggest changes you made as far as your style and moveset?
I bump more. That is it. Like back in the day, man, if I bumped 3 times in a match, it was a big match. Like now, man, I'm bumping damn near as much as Jon'Tae is, man. Like I'm out here. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that's the biggest thing. I think just being able to be versatile in what we do is so important. So like when we work and people who don't normally work us, they would say like, they see me and Tay and they'd be like, oh, Tay's gonna take the heat during the match. Not necessarily. I'm like, because like I feel like it would better you as a superstar as a worker to be able to work a heat on a bigger guy and not just go for the easy. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, Tay is one of the best sellers in the game. It's real easy to get Tay to sell. Make me sell. So let's see how you can do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, man. And I've watched like one of the things just getting back to like you changed your style. I see you hit the Canadian Destroyer.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the first time you hit that move?
Man, it was definitely like I felt like I needed to throw something out there that people have never seen me do. Like, when I barely go off of my feet, but when I do, it's gonna matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's no shade to the big dudes that fly. If you could do it, by all means. Me on the other end, not so much. Like, I'm not one of those big dudes. So, I had, and it was such a labor of love, bro. Like, to pull the curtain back a little bit, I had like the whole roster was seeing me like during the we were all just in the ring, just going over everything, and they were seeing me just trying different stuff, and they're just like giving me suggestions and showing me how they do different things, and we kind of came up with a good way for me to do that. And I haven't done it since, so I feel like if I do it again, it'll be like one of those special moments.
It'll be like your Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 19, except you'll actually make the connection.
I'm telling you, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Well, can you talk about first, what made you decide you want to be a wrestler? When did you say this was for me?
Man, like my entire life I knew I was gonna be a wrestler. Like I couldn't nobody tell me different. Like
Mhm.
my very first memory in life is watching the Undertaker cut a promo. Like I can't remember nothing before that. And like I just like have always been a fan, bro. Like I can remember like when I would help people move, and you had like the U-Haul little docks and stuff,
Mhm.
like then you go down a little every time you go down like a what is it called? A wheelchair ramp, and you just think it's the Titantron ramp, man. I would go in the grocery store, and like with the aisles, I would act like it was fans and like clapping hands, bro. I knew I was gonna be a wrestler. Could nobody tell me I wasn't gonna be a wrestler?
We all fans have done that,
Yeah, yeah.
like you said, walking around,
Should I
running.
still do that?
And I'm not any, it's not for me to be in the ring. I mean, there's a time at one point where I was like, man, I would love to do that. But nah, but nonetheless, I love it so much that, you walk out there, you just do stuff like that. You hear music playing, you walk outside, or when the rain is coming down, you stand up like Randy Orton.
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
you said your first wrestling memory was watching Undertaker cut a promo. Which
Yeah,
promo was it?
bro. It was the Undertaker cutting a promo. It was I want to say it was him and Ultimate Warrior. It was
Mhm.
either Ultimate Warrior or Kama Mustafa, one of those two.
Mhm.
And I just remember being scared out of my freaking mind. Like I was like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm not with it. Uh, but my dad was and still is one of the biggest wrestling fans, and I do attest my love for wrestling because of my dad for sure.
Now, what was the conversation like when you told him that this is something you wanted to do? Because now it's changed. His son wants to be a wrestler. His son wants to be go out there taking bumps, getting hit. What was his thought process?
Honestly, he didn't want me to do it. He well, before he wanted me to, he was kind of grooming me for music. I sing, so like when I told him I didn't want to do it no more, I kind of just wanted to be a wrestler. He was just like, all right, like I mean, he supported me. My dad's a very stoic type of individual. He doesn't upwards, and he would never be like no. Like he's never been that type of person. He's like, all right, if that's what you want to do, then do it and do it to the death. And I'm like, all right, let's do it.
Now, you said you sing. Have you ever thought about, or have you been able to incorporate that into wrestling a little bit?
So I don't really use music much. I have done like we did this rib once for one of these new kids that I ended up working. We were in Indiana, I think, and Tay was working the main event. It's like that big matter of fact, if you've seen it, it was like that show where he did like this pipe bomb, he went off. Like that was that same show. But
Okay.
it's on YouTube, it's hilarious. But like they asked me that I want to work one of these new kids, and I love working the new guys, man, because they have so many ideas. Like the world is their oyster, like you work somebody 10, 15 years in, they stuck in their ways. This is what I do, yada yada yada. Like I love working new guys. So I was like, yeah, I'll work him. And, they thought that he was hot shit or whatnot. So, like, they're like, all right, we need you to kind of, like, rib him a little bit. So, basically, we ended up doing this match where, like, his manager was his, I guess it was his aunt or something like that. Like,
Okay.
it was, and, like, his aunt was just, like, didn't know anything about the business. She was just there. And they were just like, we want y'all to rib him. Rib him, real, like, all right, cool. So we work in the match, and basically what I told the kid was, we're gonna have a down spot. I'm gonna get you down for a minute. I'm gonna grab the mic, cut a promo in the middle of the match, and just hang out until I give you the Iggy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what the thing was, I ended up bringing his aunt in the ring, and I sang "Sexual Healing" to her in front of like 150 people, and like they had no idea what was gonna happen. It was hilarious. But I thought that was so funny. But like, yeah, no, I would love to do something like that.
Wow, that
Yeah.
is hilarious. So I imagine she probably turned red when that
Oh
happened.
my God, yeah. She did not understand what was happening.
Can you talk about what it means to work alongside your brother? I heard what he said.
Bro,
I heard his side. Now I got to hear your side.
bro, like from my perspective, like I said, I've been doing this for so long now, and it don't even feel like it. And I think that it doesn't feel like it because of him. Like my brother keeps me so young, bro. Like I'm still young, right? Like I'll be 32 in June, but like I don't feel like in the business when you've been doing it for a long time, and I'm surrounded by like younger guys. Like I'm the old dude, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So being around Tay, like, we haven't tagged forever. Like I said, I've been wrestling for about 12 years, and we've been tagging for about 5 or 6 now. So like I was singles for the longest time, man, and working with Jon'Tae keeps me on my toes. It makes me a better superstar. It makes me a better person. And just being around my brother, man, like I get to travel the world with your brother. Like that's like the dream, you know what I'm saying? Like just being
Mhm.
able to just experience all of this stuff. There ain't a single place that I go that he's not there. And I will never have it any other way. Even if we decided, if I decided to walk away today and I just want to put everything in the making sure Jon'Tae gets signed or something like that, like it's still going we never not gonna kick it. We never not gonna like that's my brother, but like that's still my best friend. You feel me? And like that is just one of the luckiest things that I have to be able to share this wrestling thing with Tay.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm a huge fan of, excuse me, two of my favorite tag teams, the Hart Foundation. We obviously know Brett and Jim were brother-in-laws, but you shift over to later down the line when they had the whole family together, and you really got to see
Hmm.
Brett and Owen together.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people say the Road Warriors. Me personally, I'm a Steiner Brothers fan. I think they're the greatest tag team. But you see these brothers get to travel together and get to do this. So I think that's really cool that you guys are out there doing your thing. Can you talk about how you guys came up with the name Spirit of Detroit?
yeah, man. Hold on. So we started. We got together completely by chance. This was not planned whatsoever.
Mhm.
Never once did we say, "Yo, let's do this together." Um, when I was working, I started working and I trained a handful of guys that were in the yard because I was gonna be working with them, and quite frankly, I didn't want to break my neck. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna show them the basics, and then we have them go. Tay wanted to wrestle so bad. I'm like, you 15, bro? Like, no, like it's not happening.
Uh-huh.
He was not hearing it, but he wore me down. We got him in, and like we've just been, on past. Like even when I was working singles, I used to take him on the road with me. But like I moved to Alabama like 5 or so years ago, about 6 years ago, and it's kind of when I started finding myself as a competitor. I dropped the Terracon gimmick. I started doing Cass, and like I was one of their first black champions over at the promotion, and actually I was their first black champion, their first champion in general. So I ended up moving back to Michigan because I was just super homesick. That was probably the longest time I had ever been without just family because I
Mhm.
moved for work. I ended up moving back to Michigan, and um, this company in Toledo, WBW, wanted, or they're like, all right, we'll give you a shot. We saw that you were doing your stuff, and Lou Crank and Tay were tagging at the time, and the thing was supposed to be for me to come in singles, and Tay and Lou were still going to tag.
Mhm.
Lou decided that Lou wanted to be a singles wrestler and didn't tell us till the last minute. Cool. Uh,
Uh,
so we walked in there, and they're like, all right, so because we were supposed to work each other,
okay.
and they're like, no, can y'all tag? We're like, I guess, you know. So it ended up happening, and we had maybe 5 minutes to put it together, and it was like magic. And it was like the very first. It's like one of my first videos on YouTube is on there. It's like I don't even remember the dudes' names. I don't even know if they still wrestle, but like we were always decided that we wanted to put Detroit on the map when we do what we do.
Mhm.
So originally we were going by Detroit versus everybody, and we were doing that when the clothing line was still in its infancy. Like it wasn't nowhere near as big as it is now.
Gotcha.
So we were trying to talk to Tommy Walker about like a sponsorship or just something. So if we get big, we're not trying to get sued. You feel me?
Mhm.
So my man's wasn't reaching out, so he was like, all right. So we went to DVE for short for a second, and then we were like, all right, we really need to come and figure out what we were going to do as far as like this name going in the long haul, because we decided that we wanted to do this permanently, like as a tag team. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So we had put a bunch of different names down, and just like some of them were really good, some I really liked, but like it just Spirit of Detroit just um kind of just embody who we are. Like if you know anything about Detroit, it's just like there's this really big statue in downtown Detroit called the Spirit of Detroit. And when our teams win, when anybody big wins, like the Super Bowl or like the Cup or anything like that, they put the jersey on the Spirit of Detroit downtown, and it embodies who Detroit is. And I feel like that's what we wanted to do. So like we don't really wrestle a lot in Michigan, which I think is hilarious. Spirit of Detroit don't really wrestle in Detroit, but when we travel, I feel like it's one of the dope things to say. Like when we go through, they're like, "Oh yeah, those are the Detroit boys." Yeah, so I think that that's awesome that we can put a little bit of positivity on the city.
Yeah, definitely. Heard a lot of great things about Detroit. I haven't had a chance to get there. I missed the National Association of Black Journalists conference that was there a couple years ago,
Okay.
and so I was like, man, because I had a lot of friends who went and they all talk great about it. So but it's really cool. Definitely, I got some more Detroit questions for you later in our rapid
Yeah.
fire section. But I was on your Facebook page and I saw a Backbreaker Appeal
Yeah.
and it had me rolling. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So it's Backbreaker Apparel. Actually, it's my t-shirt business that I started. I I'm very much an in-house person, right?
Hmm.
So actually, the shirt that I got right now, Cassidy Kieth, finna rock your jaw. I made that. Uh, but one of the things that I like about who I am is I don't like to wait on people. I'm very impatient.
Hmm.
So I have this thing where it's like, okay, why am I paying somebody for shirts when I can just figure it out myself? You
Hmm.
know, why am I paying somebody for gear when I can just figure it out myself? I can learn how to sell and just figure it out. Why am I paying for flyers and logos and all of this when I can just do it myself? So I took a couple of years ago, I started and just I bought some equipment and I self-taught. A friend of ours, Tony Thunder, taught me how to use Photoshop and just the basics, and I just took that and just kind of grew that into the business. And one thing that I like to say about Backbreaker Apparel is just that I feel like I give prices that won't break your bank, man, because that's the whole point. Because I didn't do this to start a business. I did this to save me some money. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like I was like, all right, I'm gonna make me some shirts, make me some merch, and just not have to worry about spending $300-400 every time I want to get something. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So a lot of the boys would see my stuff and they would be like, yo, put me on. I'm like, yo, man, like that's not really something I'm trying to do. And just like from a bunch of different people just trying to, hit me up, I just decided, all right, like let's do it. Fuck it. Like pull the trigger. It's a blessing to be able to do. So we came up with Backbreaker Apparel, and where we have just a bunch of our own shirts. We do shirts for anybody. Like it doesn't have to be wrestling related. Like I've done shirts for like cancer marches and lupus and all types of stuff like that. And because of that, it's grown into like we have a second business now. Like my fiance and I.
Mhm.
It's called Ira Marie Design and Decals, where we do like window decals, we do like the wall decals, and basically any type of design that you want to put like on a tumbler, glass, whatever you want to put it on. So we do, not only do we do t-shirts and different merch, we do pretty much, we want to be a one-stop shop for everything. You feel me? So
Yeah. Yeah, that's dope, man. I definitely like it. I definitely like the vision. Um, Now, I was going through and I saw you had a match with the three faces of the faces of fear. I'm about to say the three faces of
yeah,
fear. I gotta find that link. If you got it, definitely send it to me.
for
Uh
sure.
Two of the toughest guys in the business as a
Man.
child when so my first memory with Meng wasn't, Haku. I was little then, but I remember when, he had the suit on and,
Yeah,
he just looked like somebody was just scary. And you hear all the stories about how, like, these guys are just like legitimate badasses,
yeah.
especially Ming. Can you talk about that match and what it was like? You and your brother going against two of the most toughest, legitimate tough guys in the business.
Yeah. So it ended up being like this, like the promoter didn't tell us who we were working until like I want to say a week or so before.
Hmm.
And he's like, all right, so we want you to cut a promo. We're like, against who, bro? Like, he's like, all right, so basically, he's like, all right, so it's gonna be against the Faces of Fear, Meng and Barbarian, go, bitch, what? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was surreal because now I'm working guys that like my dad knew, and that made me happy when I saw the look on his face, and he was like, for real? I was like, yeah, man, like that was dope. And literally one of or two of the nicest human beings I've ever met. Like
Man, you
that's
breaking
literally,
kayfabe with that statement.
bro. No, 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 no. Because I'm gonna
I know,
tell
I
you,
know, I know.
I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna be real with it. Because they're when we were kicking it downstairs at the venue, like literally, like we got super duper like close. Like that's for real. Like that's Uncle Ming and Barbarian, bro. Like that's for real. Like that's how they was treating us. And they're like, don't get it twisted. When this bell rings, you're going to get it. Like it is what it is. Like we can all kick it now, but however, so it was one of those times where Tay and I switched it up where I took the heat,
Mm.
and because I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take one for the team, bro. Like it mattered to me that I was able to like endure this because like a lot of guys don't get to work these teams, especially like in today's in today's climate, they don't work like that no more. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Like Haku works when he want to work. He don't have to do this. You feel me? So like the fact that he went out of his way to really help put us over was like one of the craziest things, man. So I would definitely say I've never been hit as hard in
Yeah.
my life.
Have you
Like,
talked to them recently?
I talk to them every blue moon.
Okay.
Ming's on Facebook, like under his shoot name or whatever. So
Hmm.
we'll talk every time when he's on, just like he'll shoot a message, man. Hey, who's how you doing? I'm like, hey, yo, what's up, man?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just the fact that he remembered a dude and Barbarian, he still be out here, man. Like I see him like every blue moon. and just like we just be kicking it, bro. Like literally, legit one of the coolest people on this planet, man.
Man, that sounds fun. What's some of the best advice they're giving you?
Bro, like just them or just in general from like
From obviously, you've talked a lot with them. You know, you don't have to spill it all. If there's any
yeah.
story or advice that you can give, I mean, that you can say they gave you.
Man, I think the biggest thing that came across us was to just be who you are and fuck anybody else that tells you different. Like at the
Wow.
end of the day, you need to be happy doing what you do. If you make it to the Fed, you make it to AEW doing what they want you to do, are you really even going to be happy? Like at that point, what's the point? You feel me? So like that, I think that's just the biggest thing, to just enjoy what you do, because you're gonna look up and it'll be over. You're not doing this full time no more.
Now, what's been the I should say your singles your singles run? What championship meant the most to you?
Man, I want to say the Uprising title for NOW, Northwest Ohio Wrestling. It was something that I didn't expect to be as dope as it was. Because it was something like I kind of took it as disrespect at the beginning, right?
Hmm.
Because it was like the Uprising title was like for the new people. It was like the NXT title almost, right? So I was at that point I was in the company for like 2 years, and I was just kind of there, you know,
Okay.
like just to be totally honest, like they brought us in, basically said, hey, we want you and Tay to come in and work in the tag division, and just it fizzled out real quick, you know.
Hmm.
And it normally does. A lot of places will see Tay work and want Tay to be like their top guy, which I totally am for. I'm 100% for that. But then like they'll forget about me.
Hmm.
So I've always had this chip on my shoulder where it's like I feel like I have to work extra hard, even though I've been working longer than Tay, just to catch up to Tay, right?
Hmm.
Because when you're that good of a once in a lifetime superstar, and I truly believe Jon'Tae Kieth is, like that's why I was saying like he keeps me on my toes, like for real. Um, but so we started this uprising thing, and he wanted to, and the promoter was like, "Yo, shouts out to Robert Lopez, by the way." He was like, "Yo, I don't want you to think this is disrespect. I want you to build yourself up. I know I see how you get down on who you are, because when I won the title it was before my surgery. So I was still
Okay.
500 pounds. I was a monster, just basically like all I was doing was squashing people. I was like, bro, I want to work though. Like I don't want to squash. Like I ain't trying to drive 3-4 hours just so I can wrestle for 2 minutes. Like I'm not. That's not me. You
Right.
feel me? So I had my surgery, and when I came back, I was like, look, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do it to the death. And that's what I was saying. Like, the way I felt about this uprising title was the way, like, kind of like how John Cena was with the U.S. Open Challenge. Like,
Hmm.
I only wanted to work dudes that weren't established. Like, I
Okay.
wanted to work dudes that weren't, names, or dudes that weren't, that were local guys that weren't doing anything. I wanted to give them the shot so we could go harder. We could just, put names on the plat, or
Absolutely.
whatnot. So we ended up doing this run. I think it was like 544 days or something like that. Um, and like I won it in 2017, and I lost it in 2019.
Okay. Wow.
And yeah, so I went all of 2018 as the Uprising champion, and I worked, like I said, and like I was saying about working the new guys, man. Like I loved it. Like it was so relaxing. It was so like challenging to just see all these different hungry ass kids who just like, yo, I just want a shot. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
And I was like, bro, I get it. I was like, I've been doing this for over a decade, but I'm still that hungry ass kid because I still don't, I never got that shot. So I get it. You know what I'm saying? So we would go, and I believe that we built that uprising division from the ground up. We rebuilt it. We made it matter. And by the time I dropped the title to the next guy coming, we really had it established. And I think that was like one of the dopest things that I've ever gotten to do.
Yeah, man, that's super awesome. I'm definitely glad to hear that. And one thing I love about you is the fact that you're willing to give back and willing to help others build up. Like you said earlier, you love working the young guys. You have a lot of people out here that just want to get themselves over, to get their stuff in and
Hmm.
not help the next person. But how can you really say you love a business if you don't want to see it move forward? You
Yep,
know?
absolutely.
Yeah, so before I get you out of here, I'm do a little rapid fire session.
All right,
You may have heard the one from your brother. Some will be similar questions, but then I got a couple ones I'm gonna throw in there at the end. Are you ready?
let's do it.
All right. So favorite wrestler, all time,
Oh, Undertaker.
Undertaker. All right. Your favorite era of wrestling.
Jesus, if we're talking just wrestling, ruthless aggression.
Okay.
Yes,
And then talk about your dream match at this place, WrestleMania or Wrestle Kingdom, and who's your dream opponent?
WrestleMania. Jon'Tae Kieth.
Okay. Oh man, that would be incredible. I mean, you've had Brett and Owen, you had Matt and Jeff. Why not, right?
Absolutely. There's no other person I would rather be in the ring with.
Okay. All right. Time for this or that. Flair or Hogan?
Flair.
All right. Brett or Sean?
Brett.
Rock or Austin?
Rock.
Cena or Undertaker? I mean, I'm sorry.
Ah.
I'm sorry. Cena or Orton? You already said Undertaker. Cena or Orton?
Oh man, Cena. Cena. Cena.
All right. Trish or Lita?
Lita.
AJ Lee or Paige?
Paige.
All right. Sasha or Bailey?
Bailey.
Charlotte or Becky?
Charlotte.
Ronda or Shayna?
Shayna.
All right. Naomi or Bianca?
Ah, come on, bro. Man, Bianca.
All right. So now, I'm a sports fan. You're a sports fan.
Yep.
I'm a Baltimore fan, obviously. Go Orioles. It's a good season for us right now because it's only taking place on MLB The Show.
That's right.
But got some Detroit names, and I got to ask you Ben Wallace or Andre Drummond?
Ben, man, pro all day.
All right. Miguel Cabrera or Justin Verlander?
Verlander.
Calvin Johnson or Barry Sanders?
Barry Sanders. Come on, man.
All right, you get one championship. Whether you see them win or not, you get one championship. The Pistons, the Tigers, or the Lions?
I'd have to say the Lions, man.
Okay,
Like I feel like that would just change everything. If the Lions win, I feel like morale will go across the board.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Cass, man, thanks for joining me on this episode of Wrestling for the Culture. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this week's episode of Wrestling for the Culture. For more episodes or more content from the Wrestling Wrealm Network, hit the subscribe button down low. Make sure you turn on the bell for notifications. Till the next time, too sweet.